Yo, Laker Nation, we've covered every single move that the Lakers have made this offseason, and we've done it in a timely manner. Here's the thing. We do this year-round, so if you want the best Lakers coverage right here on YouTube, subscribe and help us get to 40,000 subscribers, a monster milestone for us here on the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. Hit that red subscribe button down below, or go to youtube.com/LakersTV. Welcome in, Laker Nation. You're watching the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Senior. Give me a follow and hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. On today's show, we're going to get into Alex Caruso because the Lakers didn't match the contract offer that the Bulls put out in front of him, and Caruso ended up going to the Bulls, but there was a lot of confusion from Caruso's camp as to why Los Angeles didn't match that deal. This coming from Sam Amick of The Athletic. He said in that report, the Lakers wanted to retain Alex Caruso despite not countering the Bulls' offer. Caruso really got the bag from Chicago. The Bulls have been very busy in NBA free agency. Caruso signing for a 4-year, $37 million contract. And I talk about that confusion from Caruso's camp. Let's explore that a little bit further. Here's what Amick had to say in The Athletic. In the wake of my report about the Lakers not countering Alex Caruso's offer from Chicago in free agency, a source with knowledge of the negotiations strongly refuted the inference that he wasn't wanted back by Los Angeles. That doesn't change the fact that Caruso's side claimed to be confused about the communication element of the negotiation. Very interesting. But Amick continued to say this, but it seems the Lakers' calculus was similar to the one Milwaukee faced with P.J. Tucker. In both situations, there was a price point that both franchises were willing to go based on the exorbitant luxury tax hit that would come their way. And in the end, after initial interest, they simply decided to part ways when the price went too high. We know that the Lakers have been extremely active in free agency as well. I think they've killed it in free agency. Rob Pelinka and GM LeBron James have really put together a roster that I think is going to be able to compete for yet another championship this upcoming season. But because the Lakers made a flurry of moves and they are absorbing the monster contract that is Russell Westbrook's, they had to pick and choose between a couple of players. And at the end of the day, the Lakers had to choose Talen Horton-Tucker over the bald eagle, the white mamba, in Alex Caruso. That's simply what this comes down to. THT got $30 million in that neighborhood over the next 3 seasons. You could have either allocated that money to Caruso or to Talen Horton-Tucker, who's one of the lone young pieces on this roster at 20 years old and a very intriguing asset at that. I think at the end of the day, too, Caruso is just way too pricey. I'm glad that he was able to secure and lock down the bag with Chicago because this is a guy who has value, and he helped the Lakers win the championship 2 years ago with his defense, his floor spacing, playmaking ability, and he's a pretty solid athlete. This is really a good story of an undrafted free agent out of Texas A&M, proving himself first as a rookie in NBA Summer League in Las Vegas, earning a roster spot, and now he's set to make a very good price tag with the Chicago Bulls over the next 3 seasons. And there should be no ill feelings from Laker Nation or this organization. They bought low on Alex Caruso, and he really contributed at a very, very high rate. So you got him in the bargain basement, and he ended up being a very productive player for you to lock down that 17th Larry O.B. in franchise history. Caruso going to the Bulls. I want to ask you this because some people are emotional about the bald eagle going from LA to the Windy City. Do you think he's going to be successful with the Bulls? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Get those votes in the comment section. I think the Bulls are pretty intriguing. They sign Lonzo Ball to a 4-year, $85 million contract. They bring in DeMar DeRozan for around $27, $28 million over the next 3 seasons. You have Zach LaVine. You traded for Nikola Vucevic at the NBA trade deadline last year. I think the Bulls picked up a very solid player in Patrick Williams in the 2020 NBA draft, and Caruso is going to have the opportunity to go there, compete for a team that should make the playoffs. He's going to give them defense, a little bit of offense, a little bit of playmaking ability, and I expect him to get a decent amount of minutes. So football season is here, and in the NBA offseason, we don't sleep, but it is football season. So for all my homies watching right now, list your favorite NFL team in the comment section down below. It can simply just be the Chargers or the Rams, maybe even the Raiders. Name your favorite NFL team down in the comment section below. This is why I asked that. You want to gamble on some football during the preseason or the upcoming 2021 NFL season? You can do so, and I recommend you doing so with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. If you go to chatsports.com/Lakers and you enter the promo code Lakers125, you get a 125% deposit bonus. For instance, if you deposit $100 in your account using that link at the bottom of your screen as well as that promo code, you get $225 to wager with. It's a no-brainer. So once again, plug in that link and that promo code thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. More Lakers offseason news and nuggets to get to. There are some roster spots still left to fill for Los Angeles. 3 roster spots to be exact. And according to Mark Stein, is one of the best basketball reporters out there, the main priority for this franchise is wing depth. And Mark Stein mentioned one player as a possibility for the Lakers to bring in to occupy one of those 3 remaining roster spots. How about James Ennis? Last year with the Orlando Magic, he was pretty solid in a reserve role, 8.5 points per game. He's pretty active, brings you a lot of energy, so that's what lends itself to him being a decent rebounder as well. And actually, if you look at James Ennis's career numbers, I understand he only played 41 games last year. From a field goal percentage and three-point percentage, he had one of the best years of his career. So if James Ennis is coming in off the bench for the Lake Show, and he's knocking down three-pointers at a 43.3% clip, and he's knocking down field goals at an efficiency rate of 47%, it's pretty solid because he's not going to cost all that money. And I think James Ennis is a fine player if he's occupying one of those latter 3 roster spots. Coming in off the end of the bench, if, let's say, LeBron, Russ, AD, one of the other players decides to rest, you play some of those younger players that you did sign in free agency, and a Kendrick Nunn, maybe even, a Malik Monk. Those 2 guys take the volume of the shots on any given night if that rest does happen. And then James Ennis is a veteran option who you can bring in off the bench and expect him to space the floor and knock down some threes and give you a little bit of energy. As for what Mark Stein had to say about the Lakers' interest in Ennis, for the Lakers, wing depth is more important than a backup guard. James Ennis is a name that's been mentioned for the Lakers. From Ennis to another player who I've been asked about a lot during our NBA Now live shows on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, and people have also slid in my DMs with this. They keep asking me if it's realistic for the Lakers to make a trade for Buddy Hield. It's really not realistic, and it's almost impossible for the Lakers to bring in Buddy Hield for a couple of reasons. They don't have the player or draft assets to give up for one of the best marksmen in the game since he entered the league out of Oklahoma. His three-point numbers have been right up there with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson since he came into the league. So there's that. There's also this. Buddy Hield is making a lot of money. And because the Lakers have been wheeling and dealing throughout this free agency period, they don't have any money left to give to absorb Buddy Hield's contract. So it's simply not possible for those reasons that I mentioned. So for those of you asking me if the Lakers are or want to or can trade for Buddy Hield, the answer is no, unless you're willing to part with an expensive young piece on this roster, because the Kings aren't going to give away one of the best and most proficient shooters in the NBA for nothing. Speaking of free agency and your Lakers, name a free agent that you want the Lakers to sign in free agency. We're talking bottom of the barrel, end of the bench type guys like a James Ennis, maybe even a Paul Millsap, maybe even LaMarcus Aldridge. Leave those names in the comment section. Before I dip on out of here, Laker Nation, I always show you guys some love, so show me a little bit of love. Give me a follow on Twitter at Chase_Senior. It's also the same handle on my Instagram page, so if you don't have Twitter, go over to Instagram. Give me a follow. Feel free to slide in my DMs. We can talk about anything going on in the NBA or with your Lakers.